Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Highlands Biological Station's Botanical Garden. We are getting ready to kick off our first Nature 101 of the fall. My name is Paige Engelbrechtson, and I am the Nature Center Education Specialist for the Highlands Biological Foundation. The foundation supports research and education in the Southern Appalachians through programs like this one. Our Nature 101 series is something we started last year in our off-season to serve as a monthly introduction to a natural history concept or topic. And today, if you can guess by the name Leaf It to Me, we are going to be talking about identifying trees by their leaves. Now, that may sound like an intimidating prospect, and certainly tree identification can get a little squirrely. But there are some that you can pick out as, say, you're driving down a country road just by the unique shape of their leaves. I don't recommend that. But for some of us, it's hard not to constantly be identifying the trees around us. This is heavily skewed towards the way that my brain works. I want to give that caveat. So if there is a shape or a name or a trick to identifying these trees that works better for you, please drop it in the chat. If this is Tuesday at 1 p.m., I should be there to say hello, answer any questions, and respond to you all. I do learn as much from you all as I learn when preparing for these programs. So tell me how you do this, and hopefully you'll be able to help not only me, but somebody else as well. Our first tree that I want to stop and talk about is right here. So for some of you, this is a dead giveaway. If you don't know what group of trees this belongs to, don't worry. By the time that I'm done, you will. My first question, which is becoming kind of standard, is what do you notice when you look at these leaves? What stands out to you? Don't worry about thinking in terms of, technical botany language. Think about what you observe, what sticks in your head, because that's what's going to be easiest to make an association with. For me, when I look at these leaves, it feels very much like it's wet watercolors. If you've ever worked with watercolors and you've done wet on wet, where you've wet the paper and then let the colors run, that's that same kind of streaking, moving feeling is something that I get from just looking at the way the leaf kind of sweeps outwards. And I also notice as it's sweeping outwards, it's fairly symmetrical. Not completely, of course, but it looks almost like somebody put ink on paper and then folded it in half, pressed it together, and then unfolded it to reveal a symmetrical image. And so when I look at this leaf, between that sweeping motion and the symmetrical appearance, I come up with, having to fish it out of my pocket, the mental image of a Rorschach ink blot, which is made in that fashion of putting paint or ink on one side of a paper, folding it in half, and then unfolding it to reveal a symmetrical, sweeping kind of image. These are used in personality tests, apparently. You don't have to do the same thing with leaf shapes. What you see in this leaf shape does not necessarily say anything about you. But that kind of Rorschach ink blot shape to the leaf tells me that this belongs to the oak family. In fact, the oak genus, Quercus, which is one of my favorite words to say, honestly. What kind of oak, you might be asking? Well, that's a good question because we have several species up here on the plateau. And you can tell the answer by looking at these sweeping projections where the ink kind of ends. If we're talking in botanical terms, these are called lobes. You can think of the leaf as a foot. It's a whole discrete unit, but at the ends, it's kind of got these weird stubby things pointing out. That's a lobe. If you are looking at an oak leaf that has pointed ends to its lobes, you are looking at a red or a black oak, which is not as simple as it sounds because we've got northern red oaks, southern red oaks, scarlet oaks, and black oaks. And to drill down into the nitty-gritties, if you're looking it up, sometimes they're like, go scratch the bark of the tree and see if the bark underneath is yellow or not. Or look at the acorns. Now, this is a particularly young oak, so it's not going to have any convenient acorns for me to show you or to use as reference. So instead, I end up just saying, you know what? It's a red oak by virtue of these sharp lobes. You might see an oak that has rounded lobes. And if you see that, again, you can see kind of the sweeping ink shape, the symmetrical nature. You're looking at a white oak or a post oak. Again, drilling down to the differences, you can if you want to, but you're looking at one of those two oaks, or just oaks in general. The interesting thing about this is it's actually coming out very close to the base of this sharp-lobed oak. So it could be two different oaks that happen to have their acorns planted by the same squirrel in the same place, and now they're duking it out for who's going to win. Could also be that those leaves on this younger part of the tree are just growing a little rounded because the tree wants to. Nature does not obey rules in the way that we would like it to. There is one more kind of oak I just want to mention. This is a chestnut. It has very sharp points to its teeth, and we'll talk about those in the next tree. But we have a chestnut oak that looks very similar, except these lobes, these teeth are rounded. So it's less kind of the ink blot shape, but it is an oak that we do have here. Wanted to make note of that. So if you're just walking by and you see, oh, look, it's kind of that wet ink symmetrical nature with the lobes, you're looking at an oak. I'm really curious about, what you notice, and if you can tell at a glance what kind of red oak that is. It's a constant learning curve for me. So we don't have to go very far for me to get to the next tree that I want to highlight, which has the silver bark. Its branches are a little worse for wear. They've kind of been bent and broken, and that is the reason why I can grab a hold of them right here. So, this leaf. Again, for some of you, it may be an instant sense of recognition. Ah, yes, I know that is a blank. But if you don't have that, don't worry. What do you notice? What stands out to you as you're looking at it? For me, I see 5 lobes. One-handed. 2, 3, 4, 5. These ones are a little bit smaller. But you can definitely see, for example, on this leaf, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see that and I think of a 5-pointed star. So, this is the image that comes to mind when I see these leaves. And that tells me it's a maple. You've probably seen this splashed all over syrup bottles and hockey jerseys and flags even. So it can be a pretty recognizable tree compared to others that we talk about. But those lobes are a key factor. Also, you may notice on the edges here, it's not smooth. It's actually serrated. That is what we call teeth when we're talking about leaves. The edge margins have teeth. So if you go to your friend and you say, do you know plants have teeth? You're not wrong, but you're also not right in the way that your friend might be thinking. The fact that it has those 5 lobes and the teeth tells me maple, especially with the shape. Now, we have a couple of maple species here on the plateau, so you don't have to get it down to a particular one. Just giving you a better glance of what the tree leaves up above me look like. We have sugar maples down here, although I don't believe our climate is conducive to creating maple syrup in the way that upstate, northeast states are. We also have silver maples and red maples. And my guess for this tree is going to be that it's a red maple. Other maples will have very deep divisions between these leaf lobes. The teeth on the edges, those serrations, the fairly narrow divisions between the lobes. Hi, folks. And there would be another dead giveaway. You guys are welcome to keep going. I'm just filming.
Where does that way lead?
That leads to our botanical garden entrance.
That's what we want. Is that what we want? I think we do.
To the new, back on the other side of the lake.
Yes, you'll have to go out the entrance and down the driveway and then hang a right.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Have a good day. The size, the fairly shallow divisions between the lobes and the teeth tell me this is a red maple. Typically, you'll find red maples have red leaf stems, which is one way they get their name. They also produce red flowers in the spring, and in the fall, it should turn a brilliant crimson red. Our silver and our sugar maples look just different enough that I'm pretty confident that's what this is. But we do have two other species of maples here on the plateau, and they have these leaves. Now, I'm gonna do my best to grab a hold of one of them. I was practicing earlier. No, they're a little too high still. Just looking up at the canopy though, what do you notice? I'll tell you size-wise, these are considerably larger than the red maple leaves we were just looking at. And if you notice, they have no serrations. They're also just kind of more blobby looking than the red maples. And this really big kind of sagging maple shape, star shape, tells me this is a striped or a mountain maple. Striped maples, when they're young, the bark on their trunks will actually be striped. Mountain maples, they aren't. When I was reading up, I thought originally that they were the same species, so like I said, big learning curve. Apparently, striped maples have no teeth, and mountain maples do. So if my readings are correct, this is, by virtue of its star-shaped and the lack of teeth, a striped maple. But again, just being able to drive by the side of the road where you'll find a lot of these striped and mountain maples. See that big old leaf with the star shape? That's a maple. So hopefully you've got the Rorsch ink blots for the oaks and the star shape for the maples. We're going to hit up a few more tree species. In the meantime, I'm going to enjoy looking up star shapes, more maples. I have been noticing this, for example, is the kind of red that the red maples, you see that red leaf stem here, will turn. The maples have been shedding their leaves with great abundance in the last few weeks. The brown blotches lead me to suspect that they're diseased, that there's some sort of either infection or fungus that's been getting into the leaves, so the tree is shedding them to reduce the stress on its resources. I don't remember seeing that last summer at this point in time. So if you're more familiar with maple infections and know if this is a common thing that happens all the time and I just didn't cue into it, or if it's a more unusual occurrence, I'd be really interested to find out more. All right, so I'm gonna show you guys this tree is the next one that we're gonna focus on. But I want to get a little bit closer with this right here. So, does a name jump to mind right off the bat? If not, no worries. What do you notice? What sticks out to you? What impressions and associations do you make with this particular tree? For me, I really hone in on the soft, almost velvety nature of the leaves, how they're delicate, they're kind of a pale green, and also that they are paired. They're all along this stem. The image that comes to mind when I see this as I'm, hiking through the woods is that of peas in a pod. How they're all grouped together and they're round. They don't have points to their tips. So this is what I think of when I see this tree. And I have a question for you. What constitutes the leaf? Is this a leaf? Or is this entire structure a leaf? These are very distinct. They certainly aren't lobes. They even have their own little stems to rest on. So they're not like our maple or our oaks. This is an entirely different kind of way of having a leaf. This is what we call a compound leaf. This entire structure is considered to be one leaf. This is called a leaflet to distinguish it from the larger structure. You can think of it like peas inside of a pea pod. This entire thing, the pea pod that connects them all, is the leaf rather than the individual peas. You can also think of, for example, a fern frond has that same kind of compound structure, or a necklace. The beads on a necklace do not constitute the necklace itself. The necklace is the entire structure taken together. So it's a compound leaf because it's made up of these little leaflets, these smaller portions. And this is what we call pinnate compound. These structures come off in pairs along a singular stem. You'll see other compound leaves where it looks like a hand, where they're distinct leaves, but they're all connected to a single center, as opposed to all along and down one stem. This, when I see that pea pod shape, says locust. We have black locust and clammy locust here on the plateau. And if you're familiar with trail building at all, or even decks, you may know that black locust is renowned for being pretty rot resistant, and so used, for example, here in Highlands by the Greenway as the railings on their trail systems. They also have teeny tiny little spines, which is another thing that's a dead giveaway to me. But like I said, if you're just hiking and you glance up and you see those beautiful, round, delicate green peas in their pea pods, that is a locust. You don't really have to go deeper than that unless you would like to. So we're talking about a lot of different kinds of botanical terms and a couple of different groups of trees. I hope it's all sinking in. Our moss garden is in fine form with all of the rain that we've been getting recently. I want to say 2 weeks ago, we got 3.3 inches in 40 minutes here in Highlands. So Lindenwood Lake is very high, and the ground is very wet, and our plants are loving it. Just gonna pull over here. Don't want to spend a long time on this particular plant, but this is what we call a compound leaf. So they're all connected to that center point as opposed to down the stem. And there is a swallowtail up on the leaves. People have been commenting that they haven't seen as many butterflies this year as we have in years past. Which, now that I'm actually looking for them, I've noticed too. All the questions about what exactly is going on. Wish I had the answers. All right. And this, just get my props ready, is actually, I want to go over to the smaller one. This is one of the final trees that I wanted to highlight. So, if you know it, you know it. But what do you notice about it? What stands out to you? What comes to mind? For me, I immediately notice I'm seeing a couple of different leaf shapes on the exact same plant. Sometimes you've got plants that are woven together that might look like they have different leaf shapes, but this tree genuinely has 3 different leaf forms. So we can identify them here. We've got just a regular old leaf. You'll notice no teeth, no lobes. Then we've got this kind of leaf, which has 2 lobes. And then we've got this kind of leaf, which has 3 lobes. Again, no teeth on any of them, smooth margins. When I look at those 3 kinds of leaves, 3 different images come to mind. I think of a simple, regular leaf, like you might find drawn anywhere. And then the 2-lobed leaves, I often think of as a mitten. You've got the fingers and the thumb. And finally, for this middle leaf, you may have already guessed by seeing the image, I show a T-Rex in this particular image. But what I think of is a T-Rex's footprint. That very characteristic, if you're going to draw a dinosaur footprint, what do you draw? You draw this shape. There's only one plant on the plateau that has all of these leaf shapes, and this is sassafras. I love the variety in its leaf shapes, and I'm not sure if there's a reason why it produces these different shapes. I couldn't unearth one when I was looking, but I did learn that oil of sassafras from the roots has historically been used to flavor root beer, which was cool until I read that they've discovered that oil contains a carcinogenic compound. I believe it's pronounced sarsaparols, and so they don't use it in anything anymore, just in case it causes cancer in people the same way that it does in lab animals. If you have any more science on that, let me know. So if you see the T-Rex footprint, the mitten, and even the single leaf, especially if they're all together, you know you are looking at sassafras. All right, and we are running into the end of our time here for the Nature 101 program. So I want to leave you guys with a little bit of a challenge. I have 2 more trees. Actually, it's one group of tree and then a specific species that have very unique leaf shapes in my mind. And these are the images that come to mind when I'm thinking about this. This is a group of trees, of which 2 species here on the plateau are fairly prevalent, but we have 2 more species in our demonstration gardens. And this is a tree that you will find everywhere in sunny areas. They can grow quite tall, quite fast, and they have an exceptionally large one just down the road from us. So if you'd like to take a guess in the comments about which trees it is, and I think of when I think of a dog, perhaps, especially dog ears, or an ear itself, and a cat face, let me know. You'll win virtual internet brownie points for it. But that is the end of our Nature 101, abbreviated as it is by being virtual. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. We do have more programs lined up. The next Nature 101 won't be until the middle of September, but starting this Thursday, we will have our second virtual Zoner series with this station's associate director, Jason Love, and he will be talking about microplastics here in the Little Tennessee and Tuckasegee watersheds, as well as here at the station. We just did a quick and dirty experiment over the weekend to give you guys some data about what it looks like up here. Next Thursday, the 27th, we are going to have the Southern Appalachian Raptor Research organization speaking about the bird banding project that we had going on this summer. If you stopped by and saw mist nets or signs about making sure to keep your dogs on leashes, or our researchers banding birds, you will have an inkling about what he's going to talk about. And finally, September 7th, Labor Day, we are going to have our September Garden in Every Season tour. Can't tell you what it's going to be on because we still have half a month to go, and I know the garden's going to keep surprising me until then, but I am certainly looking forward to it, and I hope that you guys are able to join me. I also know it's hard to tell on a camera, on a phone, but we've got a couple of those trees that we mentioned that you could identify right now if you're looking up in the canopy and have enough, pixels to make them out. That's the hard part. Thank you guys again for joining me for our program this afternoon. I know it's great to talk with you guys in the comments. If you enjoy these programs, either virtually or in person, or if you visit the Highlands Botanical Garden while it's open, please consider going to the website, highlandsbiological.org, and making a donation to the foundation or becoming a member. Your support is absolutely critical to everything we do, including programs like these, and it makes a world of difference to us. Thank you again. Until our next program or the next time I see you online or in person, I hope you guys stay safe and stay healthy. And if you are in the area, make sure to come walk through our botanical garden yourself. We are still open dawn to dusk year round. All right, folks. Bye.